Go. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. It's Freddie Vasquez with Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, connecting the dots. Mike Spano and the flip-flopping majority leaders. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Today is December. Hope you all had a beautiful Christmas day. Kids are happy. They got a lot of gifts. Tonight I want to talk about corruption, connecting the dots. Current Mayor Mike Spano and the flip-flopping majority leaders. Merry Christmas. How you guys doing tonight? Good evening, folks. Happy holidays. I'll say that. Happy Merry Christmas, right? I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Tonight I want to come on and just, talk about some more connecting the dots. And I want to include Mike Spano now, connecting the dots to Empire Strategic Planning and some of the corruption that has happened here in the city of Yonkers, going back to the Sandy Annabi trial up to now and what's going on here and how it's all connected. And really, I mean, nothing has changed. It doesn't seem like anything quite has changed here in the city of Yonkers. So I want to start by going back to, and I did mention this in a previous podcast, the 2012 case or trial of Zahi Jeris and Sandy Annabi and the Forest City Ratner development scandal that happened. I just want to give a little bit of background. So if you don't know about it, the Forest City Ratner were developers who, based in Brooklyn, who wanted to develop Ridge Hill, what we see it to be today now, right? And initially, the majority of the city council were against it. And so Forest City Ratner had a guy by the name of Bruce Bender working for them, senior vice president, who was very well, connected in politics. And so he needed to get this deal done, right? Mr. Ratner and this guy, Bruce, who was working for them. So he reached out to a gentleman by the name of Albert Pirro. Albert Pirro is the husband, or they might have got divorced, I'm not sure. Oh, at the time, anyway, was married to Janine Pirro. She was the Westchester County District Attorney, and she was very powerful, very big, and her husband had a lot of pull, so they reached out to him. And he was paid $1 million. They gave this guy $1 million consulting job with Forest City Ratner so they can get the Yonkers City Council on board. So in order for Mr. Pirro to do that, he reached out to the Spanos, Nick Spano and Mike Spano, and they tried to help out as well to get the city council on board. In 2001, a gentleman by the name of Zahi Jeris was driving in his car when he spotted, according to his testimony, Sandy Annabi, and it was love at first sight, and he just fell in love. She was beautiful. She was gorgeous. This is quotes that he actually said himself, and he fell in love. It was love at first sight, and from there on, he just engaged in not a relationship, because they actually didn't have a romantic relationship, but they had a political relationship. And what I found interesting was that he's saying that I saw her in 2001 and I fell in love while I was driving. She had on a blue summer dress. And that same year, he started managing her political career. So while they didn't romantically get involved, or that didn't evolve, their political relationship did. And he managed her career successfully in 2001. She was voted in as a city council member for here in Yonkers, right? So he knew Sandy and he was managing her in the same way that today he manages the majority leader, Tasha Diaz. But in 2012, when he was on trial, he tried to say that he had just met her. But the reality is that he scouted her. He found this person and he said, "You'd be perfect for politics." He got her in there and he started to run her and she won. This is what he does. He manages elected officials for his benefit. That's what he does. And so along with, going back to Forest City Ratner, along with Piero, now they had Nick Spano, Mike Spano, who was an assemblyman at the time. Mike Spano actually became an assemblyman in 1992, all the way up until he became mayor in, 2011. But he had like a period there back in 2005 where he was actually working as a consultant. And Forest City Ratner was utilizing him as well through Albert Piero to be a consultant, an influential consultant here in the city of Yonkers. And so according to emails that were sent by Mike Spano in 2005, he says to Bruce Bender, the senior vice president for Forest City, he says, we've tried every angle. She won't move, this Sandy. That's what he says. We've tried every angle. She won't move, this Sandy. Everyone has talked more than once to her. This isn't from emails that, again, was written by Mike Spano, our current mayor, to Bruce Bender, the senior vice president of Forest City Ratner, the developers at the time. Then Bruce responded by saying, excuse me, we need your brother. Get your brother. Need Sandy on board now. That was his response to Mike Spano, meaning get Nick Spano. We need Sandy on board now. Sandy would not talk to Forest City Ratner at all when she became city council president. In fact, Bruce Bender even said that he tried reaching out to her directly at her place of employment. She was working at a hospital, and she told him not to call here anymore and just hung up. So they were really desperate to get all the council members on board to get this approval for this project because they already had spent $72 million. And that's something that we are seeing now. These developers are buying property to develop projects that are not even zoned for in that area. So they can't even do it if they wanted to, but yet they're spending millions of dollars on these properties. It's like they know that the zoning laws are going to change, right? They do. They change the zoning laws. Like they know about this, right? It happened over on Hudson Street for the 44 Hudson Terrace. They bought the property before the zoning laws were changed. And that's why they had to push out those individuals from the Zoning Board of Appeals because they would not change the law, right? So they eventually did that. And as well as Leek and Watts property bought by Joe Carter. Here he spent $55 million. Some have even said 90 to build studios, but the area is not zoned for studios. But they're going to be changing that soon, right? With the Ludlow rezoning and all that stuff over there. That's the whole big deal about that. So anyway, going back to Sandy Annabi, in my opinion, this was all a setup with this Forest City Hill Ratner deal, right? It was all a shakedown of the developer. They went and got Piero. Piero reached out to the Spanos. And I believe, in my opinion, that the Spanos saw an opportunity here. Let's get some money. We can shake them down. Zehi Jerris, who was a close associate and still is of Nick Spano. He came up under Nick Spano. He learned everything he knows, according to sources, from Nick Spano, was in control of Sandy Annabi. He gained her control by giving her gifts. This started right away. He paid for a lease on her Mercedes. He paid for her student loans, other cash gifts, a co-op, and another property, a house. And so he did this in order to garner favors in return. As the judge said in the case, when you accepted those gifts, you opened yourself up to be asked for favors later on. And some say that she was manipulated and she didn't know. But in my opinion, even if she was not a politician, Zehi Jerris at the time, and still is, was a married man with 2 kids. So even accepting any gifts from a married man is still wrong. But that was, when she said they were just gifts. Zehi tried to use the defense of being in love with her. That's why he said it was love at first sight. But that was not true. And Sandy Annabi never corroborated that. Not one bit at all. I think she found that maybe even disgusting. But he said he was in love and he would do anything for her. And that's what the gifts were for. But the reality is the gifts were for her, vote, to influence her voting. And this was a time now that he needed favors back. We need you to change your vote, Sandy. And so they dragged it on for a year before she would finally change her vote. But she would not meet with them at all. And even Mike Spano in his email said we were having trouble getting her to, see things our way, basically. But they eventually did. And Zahi Jeris would eventually get Sandy Annabi to meet with Bruce Bender. They met a few times. One of the meetings took place at Jake's Steakhouse in the Bronx. But how did they get the meeting? Well, one of the things that they had to do was promise Zahi Jeris a job. Albert Piero was even, told Dennis Robertson that if Zahi got the job, it was a sure thing. She was going to go ahead and change her vote. And that's all they needed to do was give him a consulting job. And so Sandy Annabi met a few times and she changed her vote. She decided to vote yes in support of the project, although she was vocal in her opposition. So why did all of a sudden, after a few meetings, did she change her vote? Well, according to Sandy Annabi, she was able to negotiate $10 million more for the Yonkers Public Schools. Developer agreed to pay that, as well as $500,000 for a traffic study. And that's interesting when I read that because, Mike Cater also makes the claim in his lawsuit that he has that the city of Yonkers, specifically the Spanos, Mike Spano, wanted the taxpayers to pay $500,000 for the traffic study and environmental study over at the Ludlow TOD proposal, transit-oriented district. And so what is it with this $500,000 in these studies? Was Zahi Jeris on behalf of Nick Spano and Mike Spano trying to get these developers to pay for another project study? Was that what that was? Well, Sandy Annabi eventually changed her vote in 2006 after a year of, playing the game with the developers. For that, Zahi Jeris received a consulting job worth $60,000. And everyone was happy. Forest City got to do their development. Sandy Annabi got her gifts and whatever else she received. Zahi Jeris got his $60,000 consulting fee. Albert Piero got $1 million. Anthony Mangone ended up going to jail. Anthony Mangone was the attorney that was also connected to Nick Spano. He was the bag man. He was the guy that would bring the money, from Zahi Jeris to, to Zahi Jeris, sometimes to Sandy Annabi from the developers or whoever else. He was the bag man. And in fact, he was a bag man also for the mob. He was in some wiretaps for a sting operation that the FBI was doing in the Bronx. So he had a history there. And so then in 2010, the Feds started investigating. They started investigating this whole flip-flop. And they start wondering, why did Sandy Annabi decide to change her vote? And they started looking into it. They started to find the gifts that she was receiving from Zahi Jeris. And they both were indicted. Zahi Jeris, again, tried to use the excuse that he was in love with her. And those were love gifts that he was giving her. But the prosecutor said, no way. He was buying her vote. Sandy Annabi was taking bribes. And she took bribes to change her vote on the Ridge Hill project. Zahi Jeris also took bribes, the $60,000 that he received as a consultant. That was his bribe. And so he received 4 years in federal prison. She received 6 years in federal prison after the decision was made in 2012. Something interesting, the prosecution, they wanted the judge to give them Sandy Annabi 14 years and Zahi Jeris 12 years. And as upset as the judge said she was, and how upset she said that the people should be over political corruption, she gave them 6 and 4 years respectively, a lot less than what the prosecution recommended. And so I started to think, was the judge, somewhat corrupt? But she also, friendly with these individuals. And that's why Zahi Jeris felt comfortable taking it to trial. But the minute Anthony Mangone, right, he pleaded guilty, he kind of snitched on them, right? If he pled guilty, he says, yeah, I did this, then he basically admitted that there was illegal stuff going on. So, at the end of the day, he kind of hurt their case. So, but anyway, so that I want to connect that to the most recent, Majority Leader Tasha Diaz and her flip-flop on the housing ordinance. It's pretty much the same exact thing. And now I'm wondering, will we see another federal corruption trial involving Zahi Jerris, Tasha Diaz, quite possibly, and others? I mean, there's a lot going on here in the city of Yonkers today, even more so than it was then. You're talking about a lot of these zoning changes that are happening. Why are they taking place? Why did Tasha Diaz, like Sandy Annabi, support the affordable housing ordinance, even voting yes and getting it passed until the mayor vetoed it? And then she decided that, you know what, it wasn't a good ordinance. So I'm not going to override the mayor's veto and I'm going to vote no on it. Surprising everybody. I mean, she never said, hey, I'm thinking about changing it, like Sandy Annabi. Sandy Annabi never said, hey, you know what, I'm thinking about changing my vote and this is why. Didn't speak to the people, didn't speak to the constituents, the voters, nothing. Just 1 minute you're adamant about one way, then you change and you're adamant about that. Why? And so I want to connect those dots. I want people to see this clearly, that we still have elected officials that are corrupt here in the city of Yonkers. Currently, Nick Spano has a company called Empire Strategic Planning. They are a lobbying firm. And their clients are many of these developers that are developing here in the city of Yonkers now. Developers like AMS Acquisitions, developers like Ginsburg, and the Layla Gorin Group. Now, what impact have they had on the voting of our city council members? Mike Spano was a consultant. He was supposed to be an assemblyman, but he was also a consultant. And he was trying to get Sandy Annabi to change her vote on the Ridge Hill deal. He said in an email, she won't move. We've tried. We've talked to her more than once. Everyone has. Everyone meaning Nick Spano, Albert Pirro, Zahi Jerris. But were they really having trouble, or were they playing the developers? Why did Mike Spano just call Zahi right away? Why didn't he say, hey, Zahi, we know you are the guy behind Sandy. We need her to change her vote. Why did he email the developers and say, hey, we're having trouble. We've tried everything. To which the Bruce Bender, who represented the developers, said, well, we need your brother. We need him now. We need to get Sandy on board. And they did. They got her to finally meet. But why did Mike Spano call, Nick and Zahi directly? I mean, they had a relationship, right? That's his brother. Zahi and Nick Spano are very close. They go back. So in my opinion, they were hustling the developers. They were shaking them down. They were dragging them along. I don't believe anybody was innocent in this. I believe everybody was getting as much as they could. They wanted to see how far they could take this with these developers. How much could we get out of it? I believe that that's what it was. But I want to go back to the fact that Mike Spano was a consultant for the developers, right? And so was his brother. And basically, so was Zahi Jerris. Zahi Jerris was a consultant and also a campaign manager for candidates or elected officials that were in office at the time. Is that not a conflict of interest? And that's still happening today. Is Mike Spano still a consultant? We know his brother is. We know his brother owns Empire Strategic Planning. We know that AMS Acquisitions is one of their clients. They're building the Teutonia, excuse me. They're building Chicken Island all up. Sorry. And Locust Hill and North Broadway. They're building another big residential there. So it is in their best interest to see the housing ordinance fail and then have it stalled until they're done developing. So they're going to go to Nick Spano and say, hey, that guy Mike Cater, he introduced this legislation to increase the affordable housing ordinance to 20%. Now, we can't have that. I thought we had a deal, Nick. That's why we hired you. And so again, Nick Spano and Zahi Jeris reach out to the majority leader like they did back in 2005. Who the majority leader was Sandy Annabi back then, Democratic. Now this time, well, she wasn't majority leader then, but it was Tasha Diaz of the 3rd District. And she was one of the 3 main supporters. It was Mike Cater, who authored it, Shanae Williams, who introduced it. And the reason why she introduced it was because they felt that it would get more traction if she did, a Black woman, right? All this identity politics. And Tasha Diaz, Corazon was kind of, she said she would have supported a 15% ordinance, but she also voted yes. John Rubel was against it, but then he voted yes. And it passed. It passed. But was that a game? Was that a game that they were playing on the people because they knew that the mayor was going to veto it? Again, remember, John Rubel was against it, and then he changed his vote and voted yes, and it passed. Then the mayor came and vetoed it. And without warning, Tasha Diaz failed to override the veto. She didn't say, hey, you know what? I don't like it, really. This is wrong with it. I think I made a mistake. Nothing. And so, again, in my meetings, and having met with Zahi Jeris, one of the questions that I had asked him was about the affordable housing. And I said to him, did you have an influence on Tasha Diaz's vote? Did you get her to switch her vote? He said no. But he said that he doesn't know if the talk that the mayor had with them before they went to vote had any impact. But it's the mayor that vetoed the housing ordinance. Why would he be having an impact on them? Why would he be talking to them? And now, again, was he having a discussion with them on behalf of his brother, Nick Spano, the lobbying, firm that he owns that is representing AMS and other clients like Ginsburg, who's going to be developing over at Ludlow, and Layla Gorin, who wants to develop over at the power plant? So you see, folks, this is the conflict of interest that we have here in the city of Yonkers. This is a problem. And this is why we cannot have another 4 years. Mayor Spano, his brother Nick, John Rubel, they're all Republicans. Zahi Jeris, all Republicans. Zahi Jeris was the former chairman of the Yonkers Republican Party. So they were all Republicans. And they all ended up getting caught up in this. Although Nick Spano didn't go to jail for this corruption at the Ridge Hill, he ended up going to jail for tax evasion. Zahi Jeris would go away, Sandy Annabi would go away, and then Mike Spano, the Republican, would change parties before becoming mayor. And then Nick Spano came home, then Zahi Jeris came home, Zahi Jeris became a Democrat, John Rubel switched to become a Democrat, and they took over the Democratic Party, and that's where we are today. They control the Democratic Party. They are doing exactly today what they did in 2012. How can Zahi Jeris be the campaign manager for Tasha Diaz, for Lakeisha Collins Bellamy, the city council president, John Rubel, and also be tied to Nick Spano's Empire Strategic Planning, and also tied to the mayor? They're going to do everything that the developers want. The developers wanted Mike Spano in office another 4 years. They got a legislation passed that would allow him to run again. And he's going to be funded by these developers, like they all are. And they're going to continue building luxury developments that the city just cannot, really stand. I'm going to be talking about another podcast about the pipes, the gas lines that cannot hold all the developments that are happening. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with the sustainable Westchester switch. And then going back to Con Edison, I'll be talking about that in another podcast. They cannot withstand all the developments that are happening. But the city as a whole, all the traffic, all the crowds, I mean, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. And so I want people to see that. I want people to see that Zahi Jeris is still operating here in the city of Yonkers. And that is why I am under attack the way they are attacking me. They're posting my daughter up on their pages now. And I went to Brian Harrod's apartment yesterday. Yep, I knocked on the door. Well, some woman actually came and I asked her, I said, do you know where Brian Harrod lives? And she said, Brian, oh yeah. And she walked right into his apartment. His door is open, unlocked. And she said, hey, Brian, someone's here to see you. And he gets up and he looks, and this freaking, this guy, you had to see this guy. This is the guy behind this computer. But I don't know if it's really him. I believe Frankie Jeris, which is an administrator, had a lot to do with it. Frankie Jeris is the son of Zahi Jeris. And that is why they're attacking me. So he comes out and he says, oh, Freddie Vasquez. Oh, and he extends his arm out to shake my hand. I looked at him like, yeah, okay. I said, what's your problem? I said, now you're putting my daughter up there. I said, now you're crossing a line that I'm here now. I'm at your door. It's my kids. You're endangering my kids by posting them on there and your stupid nonsense, right? And so, we're still dealing with that now, but that's why they're doing this to me. That's why they're attacking my business. They're attacking my wife. They're attacking me, my kids, because I'm speaking about this corruption. The FBI should be looking into this. Why is the FBI not investigating Tasha Diaz right now? Is beyond me. And maybe they are. I don't know. But they should be investigating Tasha Diaz's flip-flop. It is exactly what happened in 2012. Or I should say, actually, in 2006, actually, it happened. The case was in 2012. Same exact thing. You have the same characters. You have Zahi Jeris. You have Nick Spano. You have Mike Spano. And what they've done now is they've eliminated some of the middlemen like Anthony Mangone and Albert Pirro. Now it's just a small circle. And Zahi Jeris controls these elected officials. That is his hustle. That is his game. You want to do business in Yonkers, you have to pay. I didn't pay. I wasn't going to pay. Nick Spano wanted to meet with me. We never met. But what was that meeting about? Were you going to say, well, if you want to do your daycares here in Yonkers, you should hire Empire Strategic Planning? Was that going to be the conversation? Is that how you are successful here in the city of Yonkers? You got to pay attention to what's happening. Very recently, there was a radio show on WNYC in regards to the term limit extension. They had guests come on call in, I should say. And there was one woman named Marty who just moved to Yonkers maybe about a year ago, who has friends who own businesses in the city who would not do business in Yonkers because, according to her friends, you have to pay to play. And so I started to wonder after she said that, is that why we have not had businesses coming into Yonkers? Because they just will not pay to play. And so has the Spano family, Empire Strategic Planning, and others kept Yonkers from really progressing? Have they stalled progress, waiting for the right people who are willing to pay, and then finally found them? Remember, folks, the baseball stadium that was supposed to be put up in Chicken Island. Whatever happened to that? Well, Amacone was not reelected, right? He couldn't. He termed out, right? Because we had term limits. He termed out. And when the Spanos took over, they came in, took over the ideas, but changed them up a bit, brought in new developers that would hire Empire Strategic Planning, developers like AMS, who ended up buying Chicken Island. And now they're going to put 4 to 5 luxury developments there, residential, no baseball field. Baseball field would have been better. The luxury developments are not for the people of Yonkers. The baseball field would have brought in revenue, would have brought in real jobs, not just construction jobs, but a bunch more sustained jobs. And, the games would have brought, people in and to spend money. But instead, they, changed the plans now. It's AMS. And AMS, again, they're clients of Nick Spano. So I want people to connect that. I want you to see what happened in 2006 when Sandy Annabi changed her vote on the Ridge Hill deal. Forest City Ratner, the developers, went and reached out to Albert Piero, then husband of Janine Piero, the Westchester County DA, who reached out to Nick Spano. Nick Spano enlisted the help of his brother, Mike Spano, the current mayor, and Zahi Jeris, then GOP chairman, Yonkers GOP, Republican Party chairman. He had control of Sandy Annabi. He managed her campaign and got her elected in 2001. So along with Zahi, Sandy Annabi, Mike Spano, Nick, they played a game, I believe, on Forest City Ratner, and they stalled it, trying to see how much they can squeeze them for. Eventually, they settled on, a $60,000 consulting deal for Zahi Jeris. Sandy Annabi would get, cash gifts, a Mercedes-Benz lease, loan payments paid for, a co-op, and a house. And what did the Spanos get? I believe their reward was getting Mike Spano into office, becoming mayor. That was his reward. And so Mike Spano, again, was part of trying to persuade Sandy Annabi back then. It's in the court documents. It's there. He sent emails stating that he has been trying to get Sandy Annabi to change her vote, but she wouldn't move. She wouldn't budge. And so he was told to get the help of his brother, and he did. But I think that was their plan from the get-go. I think Mike Spano just sent those as a game. Say, hey, we can't get, we're trying here. Maybe we got to see what else we could do, right? Let's see if we could squeeze them for more money. And they eventually got more money. They got $10 million for the Yonkers Public Schools. But where did that money really go? They got another $500,000 for a traffic study. But where did that money really go? Right. And so today we are at the same place. We have Empire Strategic Planning still controlling our elected officials, which is why we need to vote these people out. It's time for them to get out. So, folks, what time is it? 30 minutes, half hour, perfect. Just wanted to do a quick thing on that. But I was thinking, with the Mike Cater thing, and I reached out to some people and I spoke to him and I said, Mike Cater was brought into politics by Zahi Jeris, right? He ran his first campaign and all that, and he got him in there. I mean, Zahi knows how to win, right? That's why people go to him. He's made himself the kingmaker. He's got Tasha Diaz elected, right? He gets people in office. It's not always legit. I mean, in my opinion, there's a lot of ballot harvesting taking place. His sister mysteriously found 18 ballots to help Nick Spano win in 2014. It was also alleged in the 2012 case that Zahi Jeris, was offered or was offering $10,000 to change another candidate or to stop a candidate from running for office. So they cheat, right? They do different ways to cheat. So it's not really legitimate stuff. But I was thinking, how did he get Mike Cater? And if he got Mike Cater, he was managing him, who, I asked around, I said, why did Mike Cater author the affordable housing ordinance to begin with, the new one, right? Was that Zahi Jeris's idea? Was that, and then I was told that he ran on it. That was his platform, because we are in a housing crisis. We need more affordable housing, right? And so Mike Cater authored it and wanted to, pass his 20%. But if Zahi Jeris was his campaign manager, obviously Zahi Jeris would be against it, because he really, works with the developers, right? So was that something that they, set up? And I was thinking, did they set this up and say, hey, let's introduce or act like we're gonna, want to pass this affordable housing to kind of shake things up, right? Kind of shake up the developers here now, and so they can make some money. I don't know, but I was told that was part of Mike Cater's campaign, and that was something that Zahi Jeris was against. He didn't want Mike Cater to, introduce or get a housing ordinance passed, and that was one of the reasons that they started to have problems in their relationship. And eventually Zahi Jeris, along with according to sources, the Spanos got rid of Mike Cater because he wanted to do things that were going against the developers' benefit. They didn't want a 20% housing. They didn't want to put any more affordable housing or set aside any more apartments in their luxury developments to be affordable units. They didn't want that, right? And they didn't want to have to pay more, if they were going to opt out of it, right? As they could, but they would still have to pay for them. They would still have to put the millions of dollars for those apartments into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So it still would cost them money, right? And they didn't want that. So Nick Spano had to make sure that the affordable housing was not going to pass. And he obviously went to his number one assassin, Zahi Jeris, and he got it done through his candidates. And that's how it happens here. That's how it works here. And I want people to understand that. That is why we have to come out and vote for change. We have to vote for change. District 1, Shanae Williams, we have to vote for change. District 3, that's Tasha Diaz. We know for a fact she is bought and paid for by Zahi Jeris. We have to vote her out. We have to vote her out. Time and time again, she has proven that she works for the developers. Look how she speaks to constituents. Look how she displayed herself, in public, in a live meeting, an important meeting, where they had all these different, LOHA, News 12, the Journal News. You had everybody there watching, and that's how she behaved. She's got to go. She's got to go. And Mayor Spano, we cannot afford to have him in for another 4 years. He does not represent the people of the city of Yonkers. He doesn't represent what is in the best interest of the people of the city of Yonkers. They're basically working on behalf of the developers. FBI, where are you guys at? I mean, don't you see the same thing happening, or the same thing happened again? You guys don't see it? Where are you guys at? Why are you not investigating? I don't understand that. So I want to connect those dots, folks. Mike Spano, again, is a consultant. His brother is a consultant. James Kavanaugh, YIDA president, is a Empire Strategic Planning consultant. John Spano is an Empire Strategic consultant. So we have to get them out. They work for the developers, folks. Anyway, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez, based in politics. Did I leave anything out? Piero said, he was quoted as saying, he told Dennis Robertson that it was a sure thing as long as he would get a job. I thought that was interesting. These individuals are all involved, man. They're all involved. It's corrupt. They're corrupt. They're all involved. All involved. So anyway, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. Merry Christmas. I just want to come on and connect the dots. That's important. It's important that you guys see that, how that works. How does politics in Yonkers work? Well, that's how it works right now. They say that Nick Spano is the unofficial mayor of the city of Yonkers. Through his Empire Strategic Planning, he dominates the city, right? And his mayor has to stay in there for another 4 years. They have to control the government. It's a must that they control it. They're going to have to fight hard also to keep Tasha Diaz's, the Shanaes, these individuals, unless they could find new candidates. But I don't know if they're going to find new candidates that will do their bidding the way they do. So, they're going to fight hard to maintain their positions, because they have to stay in there. Developments are not done. They're not done. It's not over. But it's important that we know that, and why I'm calling for this change, why I'm being attacked the way I'm being attacked. Folks, please don't pay attention to that nonsense on those other pages, yo. It's unbelievable, but they're coming at me hard, and that's why. It's very important. Anything else that I forget here, folks? No. Oh, no. I don't know. Again, I want to make sure that you understand how it works. The hustle, right? The hustle. They use their lobbying firm, right, to get clients like these developers to pay them, and businesses. Companies like Empress, St. Joseph Hospitals are all paying Nick Spano's lobbying company, right? And then Zahi Jeris, he's the guy that controls the candidates. That's his role. He and Vinny Spano control the city council. That is their job. That is their job. And they will do what they need to do, including attack anyone who speaks out against them. Anyone who speaks out against them. And so you see how Tasha Diaz got hooked up, right? When she killed the affordable housing ordinance, she became majority leader. She got her office all done up nice, right? She spent a lot of taxpayer money to redo her office. She, her aide, Brenton Bullock, is making $93,000 a year. And according to an anonymous source, he has to kick her back some of that money. And it would make sense, because they don't make that much money. They make maybe like $50,000, the chief of staff and other staff there for the city council members. Why is he getting $93,000? Right? See, they can't do it the way they did it before with Sandy and Annabi, right? You can't pay for the Mercedes, can't pay the student loans. That's too obvious. You can't be involved in any property. That's too obvious. So what they've done now is they've given them positions or opportunities to make more money, in their jobs or whatever, or hooking up their families. Right. So that's how they do it. So it kind of looks legit. She gets a majority leader title, she makes more money that way. Brenton Bullocks makes $93. I mean, 93,000. She kicks her back some of that. That's more money right there. She has this, crazy budget that they get, right? They get to spend whatever and all these allowances. They get a car. She's got a vehicle, right? So it may not be a Mercedes, but she's got a free car. So that's how they do it now. And then they'll give her daughter a job. They'll give their sisters, their moms jobs, husbands jobs, and they're all getting paid the same way that Sandy and Annabi was. They are all getting it. They're getting paid. And for that, they are screwing the people of the city of Yonkers. I'm Freddie Vasquez, folks. I'm going to be putting up some of these articles here. Check them out if you want to read them. Ex-official in Yonkers faces charges of corruption. He gave her, Sandy Annabi received almost $167,000 in cash and gifts in exchange for dropping her opposition, right? Some people say that she was innocent. I don't think so. At the end of the day, again, you're not even supposed to be taking gifts from a married man, period. So the fact that she was accepting those gifts, she knew why she was taking those gifts. She knew why she was accepting that money. She was going to have to, change her vote, do some things, that they were going to ask of her. Say Jerry's got 60 G's there. You see that? So yeah, that's still going on. That's still going on. If you should take a look at these, very interested on New York Times. Very interesting stuff. And this is where I said I have taken every single, this is the email from Mike Spano. I have taken every single angle with this Sandy. Mike Spano, a consultant, wrote on September 25th, 2005 in an email to Bruce Bender, then a Forest City executive. Mr. Spano had also enlisted others, including union heads. They do that now. The Yonkers Republican Party chairman, Zahi Jerris, a well-connected lawyer, Anthony Mangone, and his brother, State Senator Nicholas Spano. So they were all involved in this. We have all talked to her more than once, Mr. Spano wrote. She has not moved. Then Mr. Bender responds bluntly, get Sandy on board on BD. Tell your brother we need help now. It took almost a year before Miss Annabi agreed to reverse her position, but she did. After she sat down with Mr. Bender in meetings arranged by the Yonkers Republican chairman, Zahi Jerris. You see this corruption? After the city council approved the project in July 2006, Forest City Ratner gave Jerris a $60,000 consulting deal. So you don't think that that's happening now with Empire Strategic Planning, AMS, John Rubo? And how did where'd John Rubo get the funds to start Yonkers Brewing Company? What was he doing before that? Was he making a lot of money at his company, A Perfect Solution, John Rubo Inc.? How did he get the bread? Right? What did he do with that PPP loan? He obviously didn't pay his employees. What did he do with that money? And so if Mike Spano was a consulting then, and he was helping developers and change Yonkers City Council members' votes, do you think he's not doing the same thing now on behalf of his brother, along with Zahi Jerris? Let's be honest. Look at what Tasha Diaz did. Why would Lakeisha Collins Bellamy introduce legislation by herself to extend term limits? Why? Testimonies and emails introduced as evidence have offered an unvarnished look at how the company carried out a relentless behind-the-scenes quest to get the project approved. Well-connected politicos were hired as consultants. Again, that's what they do now. Public officials were asked to apply pressure. Meetings occurred at Jake's Steakhouse and Madison's in the Bronx. In one episode, a Forest City executive had to kick Mr. Bender under the table because a third executive had gotten too confrontational. And by the way, that guy, Andrew Beveridge, the guy that was by himself there, who's going to be doing the redistricting map, he was a Democratic ward leader back in the day. Is that fair to the Republicans? He's an insider. He's going to screw you guys, you Republicans. Nolan, they're going to screw you over there in District 15. In the Yonkers project, Mike Spano, now the city's mayor, was one of the influential consultants that Forest City Ratner used to lobby city council members. Another was Albert J. Pirro Jr., a Westchester County power broker. Married to, right? He was paid $1 million, Mr. Pirro. Mr. Spano testified last week about Mr. Bender's brusque emails. In a 2005, he was really being pushy, really being persistent, wanting to know every second that he possibly could. What are you doing to try and get positive outcome for the project? This is Mr. Bender, Bruce Bender, talking to Mike Spano. John Murtaugh, a former Republican councilman who voted against the project, testified that Mr. Pirro once called seeking his vote, saying that the developer was willing to give Yonkers more money. I could take credit for having negotiated with them, Mr. Murtaugh testified. I believe his words were, the project will get passed and you'll be the hero. Interesting. Reminds me of the letter that Jeffrey Buss from Smith Buss Jacobs wrote to Liam McLaughlin, stating that council members had called him to apologize for the investigation that they were now involved in, but it was political pressure. Anyone going to investigate that? I was trying for weeks and months and using all possible resources to set up a meeting, Mr. Bender testified. He even added that he had gotten in touch with anybody that I could find that might know her. So they were desperately trying to get her in touch. They spent millions of dollars. They needed this to pass. He even called her at a Yonkers hospital where she worked. She hung up on me and said, don't ever call me here at my place of work. But eventually they did get her. So a Forest City spokesman, Joe, said on Wednesday that critics have focused unfairly on the developer's role. And you know what? I believe this when they say this. He says, this is really about a company trying with great difficulty to navigate the Byzantine maze of politics in Yonkers. Right? So he's basically saying, I mean, look, we got to do what we got to do. If we want to do business in Yonkers, this is what they put us through. And that's what other business people have said. There's a play-to-play scheme here in Yonkers. You get shaken down. I know. I bet you if I had put money in Nick Spano's pocket, if I had gotten a contract with Empire Strategic Planning, I would be on my second, maybe third daycare center now. But I didn't play that game. I mean, Vinny Spano sent the guy to try to shake me down. $2,000 when he tells me it wasn't going to be nothing. A steak. My guy do it for you. Don't worry about it. I have a guy that could have done it for me. Why would I need your guy for $2,000? This guy's crazy. Try to shake you down. And so, to me, we cannot afford to have Mike Spano in for another 4 years because it is obvious why he wants to remain mayor. And they're going to continue to attack me, folks. I'm going to get a lot of attacks after this podcast, I'm sure. You'll see it all up on their pages, these, and their minions will come out of left field. And that is why They have given people jobs. That is why they did all these grand openings. That is why they've been going around promoting people and firemen, police officers, trying to make everyone love Mike Spano to keep him in there, because his brother needs him in there, because the developers need him in there, because they got to finish kicking people out. They got to finish changing zoning laws on the east side. Prepare yourselves, folks, over there. And that's what this is all about. Our council people don't work for us. Our politicians don't work for us. Anyway, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. I'm up out of here. Please make sure you spread this word. You start to talk about this. Tell other people about it. This is what's going on. This is what's going on here in the city of Yonkers. That is why, we have this term extension happen, right? This is why. They need Mike Spano in there. They need to continue to control it. They still have developments to put up. So start talking about it. We got to come out and vote. Anyway, folks, I'm Freddie Vasquez. I'm up out of here. Some interesting stuff when you look into the past here in political corruption. I mean, there's articles from 1969 on Yonkers corruption. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. You will never get the Democratic Party to endorse you unless you are part of that crew. If you're not, giving, a sanction by Tom Meyer, the mayor, and all them, really the mayor, Nick Spano, you're not going to get the Democratic endorsement. Bottom line, they're going to give that to the mayor. No one else is going to get it. But if you ever want to run for politics, you're a Democrat. As long as Tom Meyer, Zahi Jarris, Tom Meyer Jr., and all those folks control our Democratic Party here, they're only going to give their endorsement to the person that they have chosen, that they have chosen. All right. And they're going to put their candidates for us to choose from. That's it. So we have to change that. So it's important that we come out and vote next year. Again, Zahi Jarris, the individual that has corrupted officials, along with others that are still here, controls the Democratic Party along with Tom Meyer. It's a fact. They control our candidates. That's a fact. We have 4 black women, a majority, a super majority, and it's been a waste. And that is the legacy. And I am saddened by that. Let's get Zahi Jarris up out of here. And any of you judges that are working with Zahi Jarris, you cannot be trusted. You cannot be trusted. Are you going to do favors in the courts for him? Everyone should stay away from Zahi Jarris. He is a 2-time felon, has corrupted political officials, has sent people to jail, and is attacking people here in the city of Yonkers using these fake pages along with members of the Yonkers Democratic Committee. That's a fact. Time to get the corruption out of Yonkers. Where's the feds at? Yo, feds, you don't see you got another Sandy Annabi here? Tasha Diaz, flip-flop? Why did she flip-flop? What did the mayor say to them before they went in to vote? Why was he even in there saying anything to them? Feds, are you listening? Feds, are you listening? What did Tasha Diaz get? What did she get? What did Lakeisha get? Go check those bank records, feds. Any properties recently purchased? Go check that out, feds. Check it out. Check it out, feds. Where the feds at? I leave anything out. I feel like I left something out. Oh, and by the way, we got to keep in mind this ballot harvesting. Anthony Mangone admitted to opening sealed ballots and writing Nick Spano's name on them. He admitted to this, but a grand jury did not indict him. Why? Anthony Mangone started out as a Nick Spano aide. He admitted to opening sealed ballots and writing Nick Spano's name on it. Susan Salem found 18 ballots mysteriously to put Nick Spano ahead in his election against Andrea Stewart Cousins the first time, and he won by that amount. Susan Salem is Zahi Jeris's sister. So these people cheat. They will cheat, lie, and steal. That is their careers. Zahi Jeris is a professional scam artist, political scam artist. That is his career. That is why they are going to extremes to get me to shut up, because otherwise they're going to be unemployed if Mike Spano is not reelected. They're scam artists. Feds, where are you? Hello, Feds, where are you? Federal Bureau of Investigation, Rye office, where are you guys? Hello? Give me a call. Give me a call. I'm ready to talk. And so are other people. They got information. So you guys got a call. I'm a baddie. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Where are the feds?
No!
Let's see what post they put up.